welcome back, or if it's your first time, then welcome. Today I'm continuing the analysis of restaurant listings, and I bring to you a deal that is selling for 325,000. The annual sales are 1.55 million annually. And at first glance, this deal has a good positive and negative things that catch my attention. But once we look into the operational structure, we are able to see the complexity of this uh, business. And I would suggest that you stay until the end so I can show you an extra slide, a bonus slide that might help you to analyze restaurant businesses in the future. So I hope you like this video. I'm gonna try to make it as short as possible. So let's dig into it. So here we have this restaurant is selling 1.5 million annually, to be exact 1.55, and the asking price is 325k. It's located in Greensboro, NC. And here are the headline numbers. As I mentioned, they look attractive at first glance, and the owner benefit in this case is 177,000. The price to sell ratio is 0.21. So that means that if we compare the total annual revenue against the asking price, then the asking price is 21% of the total annual revenue. And if we compare the asking price to the owner benefit, then we can see that the seller benefit in this case is 1.8x. That means that the seller is asking 180% as an asking price compared to his benefit. So that's actually a low number. If an owner is asking less than twice of the owner benefit that he or she says he has, so then that's a very low number. In this case, I suggest you put an extra set of attention there, because there must be a reason why this multiple is very low. So in this case, it's 1.8. It's very low. I would say a normal numbers for restaurants would be between 2 and 4x. The bigger the restaurant, the higher that multiple is. Of course, when if we start seeing at big companies with several locations, then that multiple might go up, because the bigger the companies, usually they sell for a bigger multiple. But in this case, it's a restaurant that is doing 1.5 million dollars a year. It's not a small restaurant, so the multiple looks very low in my opinion. So we're gonna see why in the rest of this video. As we can see here, we have a massive footprint built for volume. This is not a mom and pop cafe. This is a premium physical asset. 6,500 square foot, obviously commercial kitchen. It has 220 indoor seats, and it has a full liquor license. That's great. I mean, for 325,000, this for all the furniture and the equipment that they must have here, I assume that this is already a good deal. However, obviously you will not just buy a restaurant for its assets unless you're just looking for assets. Here we can see also that it has a lease secured until October 31st of 2037, which gives us a massive operational runway. So that could be good, or that could be bad. So if you buy a good restaurant that has a long-term lease already secured, then that's awesome. But if you buy a bad restaurant, obviously you would not want to buy a bad restaurant, but let's say you buy accidentally a bad restaurant for any reason, and you have a long lease secured, that's really not good. So this long lease could be like a double-edged sword, because if you don't make a good decision in terms of the restaurant, then it can be a very heavy burden. Okay, let's continue. Here's where the numbers start getting a little more complex and interesting. So as we already saw, the owner benefit is 177,000. So there's a good question that we can ask here, and that is, why is a business doing over 1.5 million proven top line revenue only yielding 11.3 profit margin? Don't get me wrong, 11.3 profit margin is not a bad margin for a restaurant. Usually the common saying of restaurants is that you will yield 10% profit margin. However, the bigger the restaurant, you would expect at least 15.3%. At least 15% of net profit for a business of this size, because the truth is, the bigger the restaurant is, it gives more space for optimization. So it's quite low, and 11.3%. It in this case, it might be telling a story that it's not correct, and we're gonna see why in the next few slides. So let's continue. Here's a big red flag. Okay, and this is, in my opinion, the biggest red flag. 340,000 of annual rent. We have a monthly rent of 28,330. That's roughly 340,000 a year. Basically, he's paying twice of the owner benefit as rent. That's usually not a comparison, but it makes it interesting. This comparison makes it interesting. Usually, you see much lower rents in terms of percentage. So this is a big liability for this restaurant. We would have to see, why is this high. I assume it's a very good location. Obviously, it's a big place. I would like to see parking space and all those things, but I assume this is because it's a very good real estate where they are located at. As I was saying, usually rents are way lower. Like a super healthy rent percentage, I would say, is between 5 and 10%. A manageable could be between 11 and 15%, and anything over 15, here is like orange, is like warning, but I would say anything over 15%, it's a red flag. And this is over 20%. Actually, this is over 21%. The occupancy cost, so the average rent in terms of percentage, which is the occupancy cost, it makes that every operational dollar is permanently squeezed. It's very hard to have a cushion for slow months when you have a rent so high in terms of percentage. All right, let's continue. So let's just imagine that sales drop 10% in certain year for any reason. Then basically all the owner benefit is gone. It's like 155,000 would be gone out of the 176,000 that the owner gets as benefit. Here's what I was going to tell you before. So we have a 176,000 as owner benefit. The problem is that this listing doesn't say that the owner doesn't the owner doesn't work inside of the restaurant. So it doesn't say that it's an absentee owner. It doesn't say that it's semi-absentee. And when that happens, when the listing doesn't say that, because that's a very good green flag for selling a restaurant. So if they don't say that, it's because the owner actually works in the restaurant. So most probably the owner's salary is included in the owner benefit. So let's say the owner's salary is 80,000. So we subtract 80,000 from 176,000, that is the owner benefit, as we can see here. Then we have basically just a net profit margin of 6% for a restaurant that operates in annual sales of 1.55 million. That's incredibly low. That start to make this deal a lot complex. So, I mean, this might be good in the sense that there might be a lot of operational issues that could be fixed in this restaurant, but not everyone can fix operational issues. You have to know about the restaurant industry, or at least you have to know that you are good at operations in any company to jump into this deal. Another thing is the payroll. Okay, we have 15 full-time employees, 10 part-time employees, which seems a crazy amount. I mean, another thing here, before I continue with the amount of employees, is that they basically have maximized their operational hours. So they operate since 11 a.m. until um, 9 p.m. from Sunday to Thursday and until 10 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. So, it's not completely maximized in the sense that they have a liquor license, so they could close later because of the liquor license, because most people drink liquor or beers and cocktails and those kind of stuff at night. However, what I see here is that the amount of employees is really, really high. So there's three things that operationally are serious in this deal. So one of them, as I already mentioned, is the high rent. Two is the high amount of employees. In my opinion, this is too many employees. I know it's a big restaurant. I know that, but it seems like too many. And three is that the owner salary is included in the owner benefit, and the owner benefit is actually very little if we exclude the salary as owner benefit, because the point of being a business owner is to not work in the business at least after some time. Those three things are very important in my opinion. So this seems to be not a cash flow investment. The market is efficiently pricing in the severe 22% lease risk. So, this could be disguised as an asset play. In the listing, they mentioned that it's suitable for keeping the current concept or converting to a new one, which could be good. As I mentioned almost in the beginning of this video, this could be a very good asset sale. However, this restaurant has proven to have customers. So I would say it's like a waste of their already proven traffic. There are some companies that might be interested in an asset sale. So for example, experienced multi-unit hospitality groups, nightlife operators that might want to leverage the liquor license and convert it more into like a night place, and for example, not offer lunch time. And some concepts, businesses needing a massive asset, a turnkey shell to expand into this area, which is Greensboro, NC. For sure, who should avoid this type of deals? First time restaurant buyers, because this restaurant has a heavy operational burden. And if you're not experienced, especially in the hospitality industry, then I would suggest that you avoid this kind of heavy operational deals that clearly have a lot of problems. Absentee passive investors. So this is one thing that I think it's very important to consider when you are looking for a company. It doesn't matter if it's a restaurant or if it's another business that you're looking into purchasing. Ask yourself, like, what's the type of business that you need? So for example, if you have a regular 9 to 5 job and you don't want to quit, then you have to look for a business where the owner is semi-absentee or completely absentee. This for sure is for someone that has the time to be in that restaurant and fix all the operational issues. Undercapitalized operators. So this is very important too. It's the first time that I'm gonna mention it in my videos, is that you have to remember, when you buy a restaurant, there's the asking price and there's other expenses that you should always consider and remember for your financial forecast in terms of investment. So one, of course, is the money that you will pay for the business. Two is the all the legal fees that must be incurred, but because for sure you need a lawyer to purchase a company and make sure that everything is good and make sure that the terms of the contract are in your best interest. Three, when it comes to a business like a restaurant or a bar, it includes inventory. So the inventory, it's basically almost never included in the asking price. So I like to assume about a 7 to 10% of the annual sales as an extra inventory expense. So for example, this restaurant is one sells $1.55 million a year. So I would expect around 75, at least the least $75,000 extra for inventory. And because this has a bar and the liquors are expensive, they have a full liquor license, then they must have a good amount of expensive liquors in their inventory. I would actually go higher. I would expect between 100 and $120,000 extra that we would need to purchase this restaurant just because of the inventory that they manage, that they already own. So that's very important. It's not just the 325K. And another thing, if you're buying a restaurant or a company that is renting, then you also have to add the first month of rent plus usually 1 month of deposit. So that adds around $57,000. So you would need at least, in my opinion, you would need at least 600K for this to buy these restaurants if you pay the 325K, which it's obviously negotiable. However, if let's assume that you pay this amount plus all the things that I have mentioned, plus some extra cash to fix some stuff that might need to be fixed, I would easily recommend to have at least 600K for this deal in case you want to buy it. So what's my conclusion? My conclusion is if it was me, like if it was me, because I have already mentioned what type of people shouldn't do this business. So for example, if I was interested in buying this restaurant and after seeing this information, of course this is not all the information that we would have to purchase this restaurant. The next step would be like ask for more information. Maybe the broker can give you more information without needing to sign an NDA, but usually you would need to sign an NDA, to a non-disclosure agreement, to get more information, including the financial statements, which I would recommend at least 3 years of financial statements, but it would be better 5. I would like to know several things, and one of them is how long has this restaurant been operating, which is very important because the longer it has been operating, the better it is if you want to continue with the concept. So in my case, I would proceed with caution. I would be very careful to look at the operational weaknesses of this owner, because if this owner is very bad at operations, then that's a big opportunity for improvement. So if there's a big opportunity for improvement, and if it's easy for you, so for example the operation side of the business, that it's easy for me. So if I proceed with caution and I see that I see a lot of things that I can fix easily, then it might be a good business to go into, even though the rent is very high, even though like, they have a lot of employees, which can be an operational easy fix. It could be a good deal. Of course, you have to be very careful. I would proceed not just with caution, with extreme caution. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I would give you an extra slide. So these are some questions that you can ask in this type of situations where you know that there is some issues, and if you want to proceed with caution, then these are some questions that might help. Let's see. So is payroll bloated? Well, it seems like it is, but it requires more analysis. Is management inefficient? Most probably, but still, you gotta look. You have to look into it. Are food costs too high? Of course, we don't have that information. It seems to me that the food costs in this place are not high because there's other high expenses like labor and rent, and they still manage to get some income. Is the concept tired? You would need to look at the for a few years of the financial statements. Are sales declining? Of course, you would see this in the same documentation. Is the rent crushing profitability? Obviously. I mean, this is obvious, but here's where you could see the operational side of it. If you can see that you can easily improve the sales, then the rent might not be a big problem, because then if you increase sales, the percentage of the rent would automatically decrease, which is one of the things that a new owner should focus for this restaurant. Are repairs deferred? So this is very important because they have a lot of equipment. We don't know how old it is. We don't like, so we would like to see all the logs of the maintenance of the equipment, because if one walk-in freezer ruins just after purchasing a restaurant, that's not a small expense. So you got to think about all these things that maybe you'll say, oh no, it just looks good. No, you gotta make sure. You gotta send someone, an expert or a technician, to check those equipments if you want to buy these type of deals, or actually any type of restaurant deal. And obviously you want to look at how many hours is the owner actually working. Is it 40 hours, 60, 70? We don't know. It seems like this owner is working his or her ass off in this place. So we gotta make sure what we're getting into. All right. So this is it for this video. I hope you like it. I hope it serves you. And if you have any deal that you want me to look into, just place it in the comments. I'm gonna do my best to analyze the list you tell me in the comments. All right. See you in the next one. Thank you.